If you retire to the Philippines, could you get bored over time?
Let's discuss this topic.
So today we want to talk about retirement as well as boredom. And boredom is a real thing.
It's a real thing, but it's individual.
It's all individual. It's a great point. So when you retire to the Philippines, our channel is Building the Philippines, so it's wrapped around the Philippines. And you can say that this applies anywhere in the world. You could be retired and bored in your home country, and I know a lot of people are. But we're focusing on the Philippines, so hopefully we can stay on track. So Wilma and I, we consider ourselves a 10%er. And I think most of you know what a 10%er is. It's someone that's been in a long-term relationship, more than likely married for many years, and has decided to retire to the Philippines. A big percentage of those type of people, the 10%ers, usually buy a home and renovate it, or buy a piece of property and build a home. So that is really the true definition of a 10%er.
Yeah.
So I would classify that as one group. Another group is, I guess you would have to call it the 90%ers, who retire to the Philippines. Because again, remember, we're talking about the Philippines. And either in a long distance relationship, or they come here single and they find somebody and they start dating again late in their life. Typically, there's a large age gap, but not always, but typically quite a large age gap. And they decide more often than not to rent. Nothing wrong with that at all, but that's another classification. And then what Wilma and I have seen over time, now we've only been here 3 years, so we're by no means experts, but we have an opinion, and you can either agree with that opinion or disagree. It's fine. But what we have noticed is a lot of the 90%ers over time slowly graduate over to being a 10%er. Maybe not the true definition of a 10%er, but nonetheless. And let me explain what I mean by that. So often YouTubers, and not just YouTubers, because that's a very small percentage of the population of foreigners here, people that we're out and we meet and get to know, they find someone, they develop a relationship, and typically the lady moves in with the foreigner. They're in an apartment, studio apartment, maybe just a one-bedroom apartment, because that's all the person wanted, being the foreigner, and they were very happy with that. And they have their life, and they go to the coffee shops every day, or maybe the bar.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're adventurous and they do some traveling and they're seeing the sights around. Maybe they take up scuba diving or snorkeling, or there's so many hiking trails here with waterfalls, and they're just enjoying their lives. And then over time they meet somebody and they start to settle down. Well, that's the beginning of the creep towards the 10%. So, they were renting a scooter, now they bought a scooter. They driven a scooter for months or years, decide to buy a car. Said that they would never, even think about settling down and buying a house or a condo, or finding a piece of property and building a home. And all of a sudden, they're starting to look for land or real estate, and they purchase land. So a lot of people transition over time. Nothing wrong with it. They said that they wouldn't do it, and then they decided to do it over the course of time being here, as opposed to a 10%er who knew what they wanted right off the bat. Remember, when we moved to the Philippines, we started looking for property immediately, and it took us a while, and we traveled around 4 or 5 different islands, just trying to get a sense of the Philippines and where we wanted to be. And we discussed, because we made a plan of what the type of area we wanted. We discussed it many times, how we wanted our property to be, if indeed we could find everything that we wanted. And we wanted to build a house right away.
Yes.
But it was also strategic because prices was much cheaper then. It was before this global inflation took off, and we knew that prices would skyrocket. And for what we paid for the property and built the house for is much, much different than what someone could do today.
Yes, it's almost double.
Yeah. And a matter of fact, sometimes triple. We know of one piece of property very close to ours, the same size lot with the same view, that sold for exactly to the penny 3 times to the penny or to the peso of what we paid for this property just a little over 2 years ago. So in 2 years, that property tripled in value. So that kind of shows you how things are going. And then maybe a subsequent video is we could talk about how maybe building a home in this area is not the greatest idea because you're in the top of the price range right now. Will prices go down? Don't know. Will they plateau or will they continue to skyrocket? I guess that's for you to research and find out. But to be honest, with today's prices, we probably wouldn't build in this area right now.
No, it's too high.
The budget would be higher than what we could afford.
And this would cost us at least double.
Yeah, or close to double.
Yeah.
So we probably wouldn't build. So that kind of lets you know how things are really getting out of hand. And for anyone that's in this area, you know that if you're looking for land at this time, people are paying just crazy prices for things. Well, let's get back to boredom.
Yeah.
Boredom is very individual. Wilma said it in the very beginning. It's very individual. So we're going to talk about us. We can't and we shouldn't talk about anybody else. That would be chismis.
Yeah.
That would be gossip, right?
Gossip.
So we'll talk about us. We are here 3 years. The first year, 11 months to be exact, we were in Leyte.
Yeah.
And we did travel.
And it was during lockdown.
It was during lockdown, which added to the boredom.
Yeah.
So that's true. But that island to me, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't buy land and build a home in Leyte, is because I knew, or we discussed, that boredom would be an issue there.
For us, at least.
For us. And the reason for that is we do like some Western amenities here in Southeast Asia. We realize it's the Philippines. We realize it's Southeast Asia. But if there is any area or areas of the Philippines that's a little more modern, maybe have a little more Western amenities, we wanted to go visit them and give it an opportunity because we knew if we were going to be deep in the province where you have to travel a long way just to buy food, you might not have good Wi-Fi service or none at all or no cell service. If you go to a restaurant, it's only Filipino food. Again, nothing wrong with that because this is the Philippines. If you live in the Philippines, the restaurant should be Filipino style food. But there is certain areas of the Philippines, and we can say in Negros Oriental, it is the Dumaguete area. You can say, for example, in Bohol, it would be Panguil Island area.
Yeah, and we know Cebu and Manila.
Cebu City, Manila.
We don't want to be in the city.
We didn't want to be in the city. So there is pockets where you can get Western style amenities. And that was very attractive to us. Now, we also wanted to be tucked away. We've had people say to us, why are you so far up the mountain? We're almost 8 kilometers up the mountain from the National Highway. Well, that was strategic for us as well, because I'll tell you why. Wilma and I like our privacy. We like being tucked away. We like the fresh air. We like having a nice view. All the boxes that was on our list that we wanted to check. But another thing was we like our privacy. So being tucked away up this mountain is exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, and again, that's just our opinions. It's, it's individual. Some people like to be close to town, to where they could just walk to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And that's with us, we're individual.
Yeah,
We
we're a little the
just-
opposite.
We're the opposite. We
Yeah.
like to be, we like the privacy. And at the same time, if we wanna, go, with the crowd, we're only what, 40 minutes away
From downtown
downtown.
Dumaguete. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we're 10 minutes away from downtown Darwin.
Downtown Darwin.
Yeah. Good point there. So, we have friends that are the opposite. They want to be closer to town. And again, that's fine too. But that's what we wanted. And it was important to us to try to find a piece of property that was like that. Now, here's the big surprise. And we were just at a party the other day, and I had this exact same conversation. I've had this conversation many times off camera. So let me, for once, have it on camera. We want our privacy. We want to have our alone time. But we also want, and I think you know what I'm going to say, close to Western amenities. Like Wilma just said, within minutes, we can be downtown Dumaguete, where there's this plenty of amenities for us. But what also is important to us is to have a sense of expat community. Now, that's my big surprise. And it may be a big surprise to you, because usually when I talk to people, meaning foreigners, expats, just like Wilma and I, they say the same thing. I never thought this was going to be a challenge when I was in my home country. Wilma and I thought we knew it all, we could think it through, and we'd make no mistakes. So we are so happy that we picked an area where there's a larger concentration of expats. When I was back in New York, I always would say, can't wait to retire to the Philippines. The goal is to retire by age 55. And boy, do I want to be tucked away somewhere in the tropics where I don't have to worry about the Western society. I didn't have to worry about any foreigners. And that's what probably I learned from watching YouTube and just what I thought. And I think we quickly found out that that's not the case. So let me explain that a little bit, and then we'll get Wilma's take. In the Philippines, approximately 1% of the population are foreigners at any given time. That's all countries that are here as expats, 1%. In the Dumaguete area, it's a little over 3%. So it's 3 times more expats, foreigners here in the Dumaguete area. So you hear all the time, avoid that area because there's too many expats there and it's going to be an issue. Could be. Maybe it would be for you. For us, it's been the total opposite. We're very, very happy, Wilma and I, sense of community with foreigners. Again, nothing wrong with having Filipino friends. We live in the Philippines. Remember, even with 3%, 97% of the population here are Filipinos. So there's nothing wrong with immersing yourself in the community. In fact, you should do so. However, at 3%, there is a larger concentration of foreigners. Again, most people think that's a bad thing. We think it's a great thing because we have made lots of good friends, a lot of couples.
Yeah.
And it seems like most of the couples, not all, are just like us, where the wife, the Filipina, spent significant time in a Western country and then retired here, like Wilma and I. And it seems like they're the ones that you connect with the most.
Yes.
You would agree with that?
I agree.
So when we get together, it's fantastic. It really is.
Yeah, it was something that the last party we were, and it was a birthday party. And the guys, of course, sitting in one table and the wives sitting another. And all the wives were just like admiring and looking at the husbands, how they were just enjoying themselves, having conversation. And like that, the one wife says, like, I'm so happy that, we got to get together and now my husband got to talk to somebody that he could communicate.
Right.
And have a normal conversation.
Right.
And they were happy. We were happy watching you guys, like just having conversation, normal conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important to me, and it's very nice to hear that the
Yeah.
wives picked up on that.
We did, and
So-
it was everybody was just like, look at them. I mean, it's nice to see how they're just enjoying themselves and having a normal conversation. And all the wife was just happy that we get to meet good people that we can interact and have fun, and enjoy our retirement.
Yeah, and you hear also on a lot of channels that people say, I never have an issue with this group of people, but when it comes to foreigners, there's a lot of issues. And I'm sure that can happen, and I'm sure it's true, just not our experience. So again, we don't hang around the bars and we don't hang around the coffee shops. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but maybe that's where the trouble happens. Don't know. But I tell my family all the time, I'm on weekly calls with my family, either my mom or my sister or my sons. And I'm always saying, it's amazing to me how many people in this greater Dumaguete area that we have met, couples just like Wilma and myself. We have so much in common. One, we have a wife that's a Filipina. Two, we decided to retire in the Philippines. Three, more than likely buying some sort of real estate, buying a home or buying property and building a house. And we all get together and we actually enjoy each other's company. We don't talk about topics that are kind of like red zone topics. Nobody ever brings up anything like that. And we're just having a good time talking about our lives, what our future has. There's a lot of us talking about future vacations together. We hang out, we go out to dinner. Like right now, we're putting together a Thanksgiving party. Where is it going to be and who we're going to invite and who's going to do what. It's just very, very nice. And again, I want to say that's the big surprise, because I did not think that I would need that expat community. And some people don't. Some of you may want to come here and tuck yourself away deep in the jungle and be in a compound somewhere with your wife's family, for example, happens all the time, and you're very happy there. Again, nothing wrong with that. We're not criticizing, we're just telling our story, that it was strategic for us to find an area in which we feel like it's a little bit of a Western society. Good Wi-Fi, for example. If you're used to being in your Western society and you stream your TV and you have your little office and maybe you're on the computer, would you like to be tucked away where there is no Wi-Fi? Maybe you can make that transition. That's not what we wanted.
No.
Wilma loves to cook, for example. She cooks a lot of American, Filipino dishes. She's a great cook. She cooks a lot of different things, Mexican food, Italian food. And everyone says how great her cooking is. Well, if you live in the sticks, like we did before, we couldn't find a lot of ingredients. You just couldn't find it.
No.
But here in the Dumaguete area, you can find most of them.
Most of them. Yeah.
And it seems like time over time, more and more Western ingredients, for example, seem to be popping up.
Yeah.
And more options. So I think that's important. That's important to us. So we just want to have that conversation that boredom is real. I think you need to think that through before you settle down. So a lot of YouTubers give the advice of renting first. I think that's very good advice.
Yeah.
Just knowing that when you rent, you are throwing your money away. You're giving your hard-earned retirement dollars to someone else. So as far as I'm concerned, the way I look at it is that's dollars out the door that you're never going to get back. But it's also wise to make sure that you want to immerse yourself permanently in a certain area. Because if you do the opposite and jump right in and buy a piece of property and build a home, you may find out that it's not the area that you want.
Yeah.
And we know a lot of people like that.
Yes, we do.
We know a lot of people, and I think it's just because of our channel where people come to us and just want to tell their horror story. So I've said this before, we probably get a higher concentration of the bad stories just because of our channel. And it's very hard to hear. You know, someone, let's just say, spends 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 US dollars, for example, on a house with property, and they find out that they just cannot stand that area. Big mistake. Now, you can say the person should have been wise enough not to allow that to happen, but nonetheless, it happened. And these oftentimes, these are very nice people, and they're struggling, and then they end up trying to sell the home, and it's very difficult to sell a $300,000 home tucked away in the jungle. It's much easier to sell a $300,000 home in a more Western modernized area that has resorts and Western amenities. You have a better opportunity to sell your home, in fact, if you want to do that. So I hope we tackled that. I guess what we're trying to tell everybody is if you're looking to retire here, really make sure you discover, you research, you travel to, you test the waters. And we're also hearing more of that as well.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of YouTubers out there that is giving some good advice to say, don't settle down right away, really test the area, maybe move 2 or 3 different places just to make sure that it's your forever spot, because you don't want to make those mistakes. But boredom, we don't have time for boredom.
No, especially now that we have our home built. Now we have so many little projects and things to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. You know, when you're a homeowner, there's lots of things to do. We like doing things ourselves. We don't have any live-in maids or anything like that. We clean our own house. We fix our own stuff unless there's something we can't do. We are social. We go out to dinner just as a couple once or twice a week. We're constantly getting invited to parties because of the expat community.
Yeah.
We get invited to a lot of parties. And again, there's nothing wrong with getting invited to a Filipino party. I'm not saying that. And I did back in the day. But for a foreigner's angle is you go to a Filipino party, nobody speaks English. So you're really just sitting in the corner while your wife is having conversation in Bisaya, and you're just sitting there, and there's always a person or two that sees that I'm not having a good time because I can't talk to anybody, and they come sit next to me and try to talk, and it's like me trying to sit down next to somebody to talk in Bisaya. It's very, very difficult. So having that group of people where, like you said, she was watching all the foreigners, you know, having a good time, and we did. It was a great party.
Yes.
We had a really good time. Is important, and I don't want anyone to lose sight of that. So just kind of have that in the back of your head when you're ready to take the plunge and retire to the Philippines. So I hope you found this video useful, and we'll talk to you guys later.